Okay, well, let's get into it, guys. What questions do we have today? What learning happened this week, or advice are you looking for, or things that maybe you're trying to work through? Would love to just get into it. What's going on? What's on your mind? Raise a hand, unmute, put it in the chat.
I know I dropped a couple questions in the chat, I think, over the course of the week. I don't recall what they were at the moment, though.
Let's see, Sal.
Well,
I
Nicole
know
searches for. Oh, go ahead.
I know we had questions kind of about the office person. I think, Sal, that may have been one of yours of what to look for in that office person, how to kind of make sure that they are held accountable.
Definitely.
If we want more insight on that.
Yeah.
I think it's office person and salespeople, if I remember correctly.
Salespeople as well. I mean, really, right now we're leaning more toward starting off getting somebody in the office. Well, we have no office right now, so we just need a work from home admin that can check things off of our lists, keep us moving outside of there.
Absolutely. Does anybody have any advice on that? Anybody's have a remote office person or even just hired an office person, and what have they helped you with primarily? What's the biggest difference makers? And does anybody have some advice? Scott, I see you here. I know you have a pretty phenomenal office person.
I wouldn't try to do business without having an office person unless it just was not physically, financially possible. It frees up your schedule so much to do, and I'm about delegating. So if you can't let go of stuff, if you can't let other people handle things, then try to get over your control issue, I guess. Really, we just run so much more efficiently with the office person. Every call gets answered. We don't miss any calls. We're not so to me that is huge. We're not missing any opportunities. The phone is answered live all the time, not by somebody huffing and puffing and saying, hang on a second, let me get back to my truck. I mean, I've done that for years myself, so I'm not, it's just the experience for the customer is just 10 times better. And then follow up. So then, not only do they get that up front, then you have the opportunity to have follow up. You can touch base back with the customer. The communication gets a lot better. But it's like everything else, you got to utilize, you got to get with your coach and get that agenda fine-tuned. And when we first started, we thought we wouldn't have enough work for an office person to do. And we quickly found out, there's plenty they can do, and they can add to the business in so many ways.
Yeah. All great advice, Scott. And I think you guys were someone who you guys went through a few different office people before finding the right fit. And so I think that's something, I know that was in the group chat too, where it's like, don't let trying to find that right person stop you from pursuing that position. You might go through a couple before you find the right one. And then the main key thing to make sure that position is productive is making sure that you have the accountability, you're meeting with them, and you're providing with the tools they need to succeed. Daily office checklists, scripts, all of those things that really will allow them to be more efficient, more effective, and not be flying blind.
We hired a technician and an office person at the same time. So we had one tech and an office person. So And yes, the first few months there wasn't a whole lot, but that actually gave us time to work out the kinks and get the right person on the job. So I wouldn't have done it any other way.
Yeah. Yeah. And for our remodelers, we see that happen pretty often where it's like at the time that you're probably thinking about hiring a project manager, usually you're hiring an office manager too. Those do tend to kind of quickly follow one another. I see some questions in the chat, but I think before those questions came in, I saw James's hand come up. So James, if you want to unmute, what's going on?
Well, I was going to say I have my office admin or office manager for my company that doesn't have an office. She's one of my sales girls' aunts, and she was basically retired, and but she's been with me now for 8 years. And what I have a virtual phone number for my office. So I just saw somebody post something in the chat, and it's a Google Voice number is my main line. But I just have a company cell phone that she has, and I forward that Google Voice line to the cell phone. And my deal with her is, she works 9 to 6, Monday through Friday. And as long as she has the phone with her and she answers in a timely manner and does she goes to see her kids in Oklahoma, goes to Tulsa, drives wherever she needs to go, always has the phone with her, always has her computer with her. So, she's always handy. She answers the phones. She may be a little, what's the word I'm looking for? She seems to make things a lot harder than they need to be because she's so detail oriented with things. So she'll call me and she's like, oh, well, I have this giant spreadsheet of all these customers we've ever done business with. Do you want me to send it to you? And I was like, well, I've got QuickBooks, so I kind of have all that. But she's like Excel spreadsheet queen and does a whole lot of stuff that like I don't even ask her to do. She's just in case we need this information down the road, I've got it over here on a hard drive type of lady. But my suggestion, if you're looking for someone, ask your friends and family, because you never know who's going to be out there that doesn't really need, they don't need a full-time job. They don't need, I pay her well, but I don't pay her probably as much as if she had to come into an office every day. I did rent an office for about a year or two. And when I rented it, she's like, I'm not going to have to start coming to the office, am I? I'm like, no, you don't have to. You're fine. But just finding those people that maybe it's not necessarily needed to be a full-time gig, but just allow them the freedom to move around and do the things that they want to do as long as the tasks are getting handled for them. And that kind of, when you find somebody that can do that and do the things that you want them to do, in my opinion, that's kind of the person that you're looking for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think a good framework also to maybe add to this, just a slightly different flavor, because we've talked about this in similar ways before, but at the small business level, thinking about the office admin more like an executive assistant if you make the right hire. And it's not that difficult to make the right hire. We know, and I don't know, is there anybody's in here that I did this with recently, but we know that when you make a post for an office admin, even if it's a hybrid, because you don't have an office space for them to go, or you make it remote, and especially so if that's the case, you'll get 80 applicants within 2-3 days.
Oh, yeah.
And within that, you can be a lot more picky and get good criteria for hiring. It's easy to hire an office admin. It's more difficult from the office admin's perspective to be the people that stand out, because there are so many that will apply when you get there. So don't overthink the asset potential that this can provide for you at a small business level. Because what you're doing with this is I think Nephi and I were talking about this morning, but what you're doing with this is you're concentrating your dollar an hour rate. You're making it more potent, more valuable. Instead of doing tasks that are $15, $20 an hour worth of work, you're staying more in that realm of what your actual rate is that you cost to the company, which is that $200 an hour rate. So that's the flavor I'd like to add there on that.
Yeah. I see some stuff in the chat here. One is just how do you transfer the office, once you have an office person, how do you transfer that phone? This isn't necessarily in the question, but I just want to say it. If your personal number as the business owner is the office number and you're at the point where you are wanting to hire a office person and your personal number is the main number for the business, would highly recommend you getting a new personal number and making that business number and making that current number your business number. You're never going to train people to call your business line. They're always going to call you and go directly to you. And you really don't want that. The whole point of having an office person is having a gatekeeper. And so use that as an opportunity to start fresh, get yourself a new number, make that the business number. And then I would talk to just whoever your phone provider is. I know we had it looks like a lot of advice here in the chat of just like Google Voice numbers. There's a lot of different ways to, transfer so that calls come to different phones. Laura, I see your question here in the chat. Does anybody have any inventory control or PO management softwares that they're really liking? If you do, if you want to put that in the chat or unmute and talk about it, that'd be great. But as we're waiting for those recommendations to come in, Michael, I see your hand up. What's going on, sir?
Yeah, Bryce talked me into looking for an office person, and it's horrible hire, just horrible. Never did anything, didn't show up, quit without telling me she quit, and she still won't go away. Bryce, tell him who I hired.
He's talking about his own choice. He hired his wife.
Horrible hire. I
Yeah.
asked her the other day, still paying her too, when she's going to work. So I'm no good at that, and just walked away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Michael, this call is being recorded, just to let you know.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I said this call is being recorded, just to let you know.
Yeah, I know.
Anything you say in here, make it out. That's just to let you know. It's uploaded on YouTube.
Still gets paid and does nothing. So.
Yeah,
that caused him to double down, knowing it was recorded.
Yeah,
That's the kind of guy Mike is. He
I love
can
it.
attest.
I see Laura Pierce. What's funny about Laura's advice here, she says, Grandpa said, don't hire your friends and don't hire your family, especially your spouse, which is hilarious considering Pierce Electric is a family run company for the past 90 years. They've passed down generations and Laura manages it with her brother, Matt. But yeah, that's it. It can sometimes be a tough dynamic. Sometimes not hiring families is a good route or a spouse. But Michael, that's funny. Let's see here.
Yeah. Does anybody have any insights there on the PO software? I see Dale had responded saying that they use their customer name and invoice number as a PO. That way it ties the purchase to the job, makes it a little easier to cost. Yeah, but any other thoughts there? Any other recommendations people may have?
Can I say something on the PO software?
For sure.
So, yeah, guys, I'm about to in front of a computer. I had to run an errand. The timing was just off, but I highly recommend using whatever pre-existing software that you have to manage your PO system, because whether you use Builder Trend or Service Titan or House Call Pro or Jobber or any of these kind of popular construction and service software platforms have PO management systems already built within them. And it is so much easier. It can be difficult at first, having to learn that system. But it is so much easier to just learn how to utilize what you already have over trying to find yet another software package and demo it out and then implement it and onboard it and integrate it with stuff. And so I was just recently meeting with Eklund Services, and they asked me this same question. And they said, hey, we need like a PO management software system. What do you recommend? And they use Service Titan. And I doubled down. I said, hey, you really just need to be using Service Titan. And so we built out like a checklist to use it, and we can help you do that with your software if you need help doing that. But that's my take. And if you don't have a like construction management or dispatching software, and you're saying, well, like I don't even have that, but I still need a PO system, well, then I would start moving towards that, because you don't really need a separate PO software system if you already have the construction management software already built in. And the barrier to entry to getting a new software platform just to manage PO stuff is a lot bigger than it needs to be compared to just using construction management or dispatching software. So that's like my take on it.
Good deal. Any other questions, or well, rather thoughts on the PO stuff that you want to share? Go ahead. But any other questions we have this morning? Things scratching your brain. Insights
I
from the
have
lead.
a question. It kind of goes back to hiring an office admin.
Okay.
So we have yet to start working with a CPA. We do plan to very soon. The other thing is we've never hired on an actual employee. Anybody that has worked with us, they've always been paid as a 1099 as a subcontractor. Now, once we start working with a CPA, would they be the ones to take care of payroll and taking taxes out, things like that, to make sure the office admin is being paid as an employee? Or do we just pay them as a contractor? I really have no idea.
A lot of it depends upon the kind of like terms that you have someone come in on. So like, for example, if you're having someone that works similarly to how Jay Gravitt was describing earlier, where they're remote, and I don't know all the details of Jay's person, and so I could be wrong on some of this, but if it's a situation where they're like remote working part-time, you may want to start them at a 1099. Sometimes starting them at a 1099, any employee as a 1099 is just better as a kind of trial run. But if they're working full-time, I would have them come in as a W-2. CPAs, some CPAs will manage your payroll for you. Most CPAs that do manage payroll end up, they will manage it for you, but what they're really doing is just using their own white label and third party to do that. There are a lot of payroll and benefits companies. I mean, it's a huge industry to manage that for you as well. And so what I'd first do is ask your CPA, hey, can you run payroll for me? That shouldn't be very expensive if they say yes to that. Okay. So it should be, I don't know, maybe like $50 to $100 per employee that they're managing payroll for per month. And if you find a CPA you really like and they don't manage payroll, we can help you find a payroll provider. I would highly recommend using a provider of some kind, because in Power Builders, our construction business in Seattle, I just set up payroll myself, and it was such a pain in the rear end having to do that. I mean, I was having to reach out to multiple state departments, having to find out the nuances of how much I need to take out for like unemployment, SUI insurance, and a number of other things. And it was complicated process. It took a lot of effort on my end. And in hindsight, I wish I would have just used like a payroll service provider. And so anyway, yeah, most CPA, a lot of CPAs do it. If they do it, it shouldn't be too expensive. If they don't do it, we can hook you up to a payroll service. If you're bringing someone in full time and they're only working at your business, you gotta bring them in as a W-2. But if they're remote, not maybe working full time, then a 1099 contractor can work. And a lot of times, guys in the field, especially like higher level position guys, project managers, foremen, superintendents, if you're bringing them into the business as well, I like to do like a trial period. Hey, let's see if this works for the first 60, 90 days. We'll bring you in as a 1099. And if it does, we'll move you over to W-2. That's what we just did with our project manager too. We brought him in as a 1099. He had his own kind of side business that he was running before. And so we just paid that business, and about 60, 70 days passed by. We realized it was a good fit, so we brought him in as a W-2 recently.
All right.
Yeah, so someone just mentioned Gusto. Gusto is the payroll provider that a lot of CPAs white label through. So that's a pretty good one, and it's pretty cheap too. I didn't see who said that, but Gusto is a good one.
Could somebody drop that in the group chat?
Yep.
Thank you.
We can do that.
Yeah. Luke, I see your hand up. What's going on?
So we actually use Gusto, and we recently had a pretty big problem with them. We use a credit union. We use a credit union, and when creating all of our accounts for the Profit First system, it screwed with their system, which they had just bought out other credit unions and were redoing their entire system. So we had all the money in our accounts, and then we went to run payroll and pay our credit card, and both of those got flagged. The bank didn't distribute the money. It was in there. And so now Gusto just actually moved us from a 2-day payroll cycle. So I would run it on Wednesdays, and then people get paid Fridays. Now they're saying I have to run it every Monday, and that's inconvenient because we like to try to collect checks and get commission out that week. So we did just have that issue, and they're saying they will not work with me whatsoever, even though the bank, like, I have proof that the money was in there. But then, of course, our bank will not do a third-party verification. So we're having the same issue with American Express right now. But so either way, they said it's going to be 12 months we have to wait to get off a 4-day pay cycle, which is kind of frustrating. So there are those things to watch out for, too. It was completely out of our control.
Dang. That is frustrating. Yeah, I saw Arnold Spelling put in the chat he uses OnPay. That's what Redmond Growth uses also. And then Stacy said that they use QuickBooks for payroll. So plenty of options out there, but those are the main ones that we see most often would be either QuickBooks or Gusto, or through a CPA, they'll do that. What other questions do we have this morning? Either insights from the week. I know with the summertime, it's just busy. Just get stuff. We're in execution mode, going from one thing to the next all the time. But what other things? You made it here. What other things are on your mind? Good, Stacey? Oh.
Sorry. Okay, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I'll say it right, but on a payroll standpoint for commission-based pay, does anybody have, as far as paying out, do you guys do when obviously the checks come in, but what do you do if it's like a 30-day payout net?
You could just run the commission payroll separately. You can have your normal payroll that's running, weekly, biweekly, whatever it is for their time. And then I would just do the commission payroll like once a month.
So we have our leads, we transferred our leads to commission only, not hourly.
So could you just, if you're creating the commission totals and like based upon 30-day number, you could do one of two things. You could either reduce the time in which you determine which the commission could be paid, which may be a little bit more hands-on work, but would be worth it, to where, so whenever you're switching payroll, first of all, there's going to be a disruption to when people are paid. And that's just something that you've got to manage. You manage that by talking to the team, setting expectations, giving people, plenty of heads up, that there may be like a delay in when they're paid. It seems like a delay, but it's not really a delay, because then once the payment adjusts to whatever new time period that they're paid in, then every day following that will be earlier than when they were previously paid. And so just that's a part of it. But could you not just calculate the commission in 2-week periods and then pay them in 2-week periods?
Yeah, because we pay weekly right now.
Yeah, or even weekly. You could just do it weekly, but you could wait until the end of the week. You could finalize and approve payroll the following Monday, and then make the payroll date payout on, that Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah, because our weeks are Friday to Thursday, so I keep like a spreadsheet of the jobs and the ones that have collected. So we just transitioned to this the 23rd of May. But like this week, basically the 2 leads that we have are on one big job all week because Jordan was in Alaska. So, I guess I'm just trying to figure out like a good way to tell them each week if they do jobs that are 30 days net pay for us. I don't know if that makes sense.
Can you try saying that again?
So I just mean for the future, like if we have some jobs that like are net 30 days, ideally they don't get paid until we get paid. Or is that how people do it, or for commission only? Because we still have hourly, but I mean for the commission, because we give the leads now a certain percentage. But this past week, they're like, okay, well, I did this big job, which is fine because we collected a deposit and whatnot. But just in the future, if it's other jobs that are net 30, I mean, we wouldn't be able to pay them until we get paid from them. So like essentially they might have a really big check because then they get the payments. But what do people do in the interim?
Robert, can I jump in?
Go ahead.
Scott, go for it.
What we do is we do a profit sharing, and we don't pay those till the end of the project, until it's complete, signed off, and we've done a release. So that's an option that we've gone to. So we don't pay it during the project while we're collecting, project or progress payments. We wait till the project's cleared out and we've received full payment before we pay out any of the profit sharing.
So
then you pay them an hourly?
Yeah, my guys are paid hourly during the job. Okay. But then when we get to the end of the job and it closes out, we look at the overall profit on the project, and then we have a profit sharing that we pay out based on seniority and stuff. Not everybody gets the same split, but that doesn't happen until the end of the job.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Scott. So Stacy, they're for commission in a trade like electrical, that commission works best whenever they're running service calls, right? It's
that commission structure isn't paying guys commission only isn't as applicable because you run into this situation if they're on construction projects with a net 30 pay cycle, right? And so for guys that are on those types of projects, I would recommend doing a hybrid pay of some sort. And as much as you can, keep guys that are really strong at service calls all the time, as much as you can, commission only all the time. And then have the new construction guys that typically the people you put in those positions may not be maybe as good in front of people. Maybe they're not strong salespeople, but they're really strong electricians, right? I would do some sort of hybrid payment with them because like they're kind of then at fault for terms that you agreed to as a business owner, as far as how you're paid, and they shouldn't be penalized for that, right?
Right, I agree.
And the commission isn't as applicable, in my opinion, for a net 30 pay cycle if they're not the ones that sold the job, right? And so
yeah.
And so so there's a couple of things. If they're working on other service calls and you're just waiting and it only took them a couple of days to do this, net 30 job and you're going to get paid net 30, I would just wait until you collect the money 30 days later to pay out the commission because they can still get money coming in the meantime, right? From running other calls and doing that thing. But if they're like going to be on a project for a long time, and it's a new construction project and they didn't really sell it, right? If like Jordan bid the job and won the job and just putting guys on it, well, that's kind of like just an install crew, right? That's just kind of like a function. Like there's no commission really that person earned on that job, right? Unless maybe they work and get the job done faster and it saves you a little bit in labor costs. There might be like a commission opportunity there, but they shouldn't get paid necessarily a commission on the total. There should be a commission on the difference between what you estimated the job to take versus with their hard work, how they were able to finish it early, and whatever that difference is between the profitability that you made from doing that, they should be paid a commission from that. And so I don't mean to complicate this, but just the main idea is this: is for new construction opportunities that guys are going to be on it longer, like let's say a week plus, and you're not going to be paid for 30 days, I would recommend paying them something, right? While they're working that job. But for guys that are going to be more actively on service calls, if they're only working that job for a couple of days among all the other jobs they're working in that week, they'll just tell them, hey, we're not going to get paid for this for 30 days. We're still going to pay you on your other work that you're doing. And then you're going to just get paid a commission check once this money comes in.
Yeah. These ones are jobs that Jordan had already bid, but then we transitioned, and I don't know. I don't like it. So just that way, but maybe it's harder for me to understand, and so.
Well. Okay. Yeah, I remember having a number of conversations with Jordan in the group call about this specifically, and we strongly recommended him to move to commission only. But that, again, was in the context of running service calls, right?
Yeah. And so, like, we've hired 2 more people who's going to start next week to be lead service techs. So that, I mean, ideally, that makes sense on the service side. I guess I am just a little stumped on these bigger projects that we're trying to finish because they did transition to, commission based only, but I don't want to just say, oh, hey, you don't get a check this week, like that's really hard for them.
Yeah. Or you don't get a check for like 30 days. Yeah. That's hard for anybody. That's hard for me. Right.
And then I'm like, well, we can't deplete our accounts. So
just know this, that whenever you're adjusting payroll, there's this awkward transition period every time, right?
Yeah.
Where you're having to communicate with your team and work with them to be like, hey, we're moving to this, but we also don't want you to be in a bad financial spot, just assume that everyone works paycheck to paycheck, right? Assume that that's always the situation, you know? And so with that assumption, you've got to have a way, maybe just temporarily, to say, hey, we're going to temporarily keep you on maybe a former hourly rate for the duration of this job. And then once the job is finished, we're going to move you to commission only. Or something that you could even do, not to throw another complicated kind of thing into this, but you could say, hey, we're going to pay you an hourly wage. We still have you on commission. And then once the job is finished, we're going to deduct your hourly wage from your commission. And if there's any difference that's still owed based upon what you would earn on the commission, right, we'll pay that out at the end of the 30 days. So it's almost like you can pay them, you can view it, it's not really technically advanced, but you can view it almost like an advance on commission.
Sure.
And then if there's anything left over, you can pay that out after you subtract what you've already paid them.
Okay.
Is that helpful, or did that complicate things?
Probably both, but it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get it. I don't know. Maybe for the first time, this is something I'm resistant to. And so it's making it a little more challenging.
Yeah. Well, it's uncomfortable, right? Because you're moving from something familiar to something new, right? So change is happening. That's uncomfortable, right? So you're in the growth zone is what you're feeling. Anytime you're feeling those uncomfortable emotions. I mean, we talk about this on onboarding every week, right? We got to embrace that discomfort. It's not fun. I get it, right? But just know that anytime you're adjusting payroll, there's this awkward transition period. And in that period, you want to be really intentional to work with your team to make sure that they can be reasonably covered as you're making that transition. And then knowing that there's going to be maybe a gap of an extra few days, that may be a payment delay, right, compared to what they were paid as you're adjusting to the new schedule. Here's where I'm talking from. We recently moved all our guys from 1099 to W-2, right? You got to do that if they're working for you full time. And they're not like working anywhere else, right? Otherwise, if you do that for too long, the IRS will see that and be like, okay, you owe a lot of payroll tax because these guys, you're just paying them to 99. It'll look really bad. This honestly has put contractors out of business. There's a pool contractor I know of that paid their guys for like 6 years, 1099 only. IRS audited them. The amount of payroll taxes that they needed to pay literally bankrupted this family. They had to sell their home. It was bad, right? So there is some wiggle room in the beginning, like within the first year of someone's employment, but after that, you got to be really careful. But all that to say is we switched all our guys to W-2, and I talked with the guys, and my partner Tyler talked with the guys to say, hey, we're switching to W-2. We were paying the guys at the end of every week. And then we needed to wait until the week was officially over so that on Monday we could approve their hours, right? And then the payroll date changed. So it was about a week and a half of delay in payroll. So we just worked with them to say, hey, we're making this transition, not like, hey, do you care if we make this transition? We told them we're making this transition, but we want to be conscious of your guys's financial, when's going to be the best time to make this transition. And we talked to the whole team, and we figured out the best time to do that. We had to wait a couple weeks longer than we wanted to, but it was this kind of awkward phase of working with people, seeing what works for them, setting expectations, giving people plenty of runway, and then making that transition. And so just know that that's a part of the process. It's not comfortable. It's not fun, but it's just like what you have to go through when making the adjustment.
Sure.
By the way, I want to welcome the gentleman that just spoke. His name is Scott Whitwam. Scott has known my family for a very long time. He owns AZ Renovations in the Mesa, Arizona area. Do we have any other Arizona people on the call today? I know we got a lot of people that work in Arizona. Anyway, Scott got to hear me speak in Hawaii about a week and a half ago. And so he's just checking us out. I invite him here on the group call. Scott, it's really great to have you here, man.
Thanks much. I appreciate you guys being here. This conversation is really good, helpful.
Yeah. Anthony, what's up, brother?
I was just raising my hand. I'm in Arizona.
Yeah, I thought you were too.
What city are you in, Anthony?
Northern Arizona. I live in Prescott Valley. Serve Prescott, Cottonwood, Prescott Valley area, Verde Valley area. Try not to deal with Flagstaff.
Okay, as we're kind of thinking about final questions or comments, yeah, Arnold Plumbing had a good comment here related to the payroll conversation. We have some employees on a commission and some on hourly pay, right? So that's exactly what I'm talking about. We pay biweekly. Our guys get paid whether the money's been collected on the job or not. We run service calls that help with cash flow while also doing new commercial construction projects that are cash flow killers. Just the fact that he would write that sentence means that we've completed our job here at Redmond Growth. It is a challenge of managing our cash flows. So yeah, Arnold, I really appreciate you putting this comment because that kind of summarizes the idea that I think uniquely is there for the trade businesses, right? That are doing new construction, work as subcontractors, but are also running a lot of service calls. I really like this, what Dale just said about we pay our guys whether or not the money's been collected on a job or not. And usually I would say I don't like that. The reason why I'm saying I like that in this situation is because if it's in the context of like a new construction job, right? A job that a guy hasn't sold and a job that's longer term, and the guy had no involvement with agreeing to the payment terms. You as a business owner are saying, yes, I'll take this job and I'm willing to be paid at a net 30 pay cycle. Well, we then shouldn't penalize our team for that, right? Pay them some sort of hourly range, build in a bonus or commission for getting the job done ahead of schedule, or maybe your guys in the field can open up the opportunity for more work that you can pay a commission on, right? So maybe they do such a great job, customer wants to do more work with you, right? And it's really because of their work that they're doing and how they're showing up that's leading that. That's a commission that you could pay them too. But I completely agree with what Dale's putting here. So, hey, just to let everyone know, this is, back at the end of April, we did this really cool event with Lance Odell. I'm not sure if Lance is on the call right now, but we did it with Lance Odell, and we did it with a guy named Mike Feynman, who is the founder of Texas Business Brokers. Has sold hundreds and hundreds of companies, and a lot of them construction and service companies. And it was a great event. And we're wanting to do more of those. And it's kind of like specialty coaching events where it's, a block of time dedicated to learning or being trained in one particular area that's really important and can make a big impact on your business. We're going to be doing that again this month. Instead of doing a workshop on how to sell your business, we're going to be doing a workshop on cost plus estimating and billing. I feel, first of all, cost plus questions come up a lot on this group call. They come up nearly every week. And so we see this as something that is particularly relevant to everyone. But I have kind of developed a system that uses the cost plus estimating and then combines it with a specific billing cycle that allows contractors to always stay ahead of the money every time. The system, and it's working, right? I've tested it out and it's working great. The system always allows us to collect money before we spend it. And if we ever need to spend money that the customer owes us, we wait until the customer pays us before we spend. And we set those expectations from the very beginning so that the customer's never supplies, and it just works great, right? And in our collection cycle, we're collecting profits along with the actual amount that we need to collect to cover expenses every single collection cycle, right? So it's like this cost plus estimating plus staying ahead of the money billing system. And we're going to be teaching on that, right? And so, Bryce, can you remind me the date? Is it June 18th?
Yep.
That we said Wednesday?
Yeah, June 18th for the session, and then 19th doing the Q&A.
Yes. So we're going to do a 2-hour session June 18th on Wednesday afternoon. And then we're going to have a 1-hour kind of follow-up. The initial 2 hours is just going to be training, right? And there's not going to be a lot of questions. This is going to be running through how we define cost plus, how to do a cost plus estimate, and how to run, after you start the project, how to run a billing cycle that always keeps you ahead of the money. It's pretty easy and straightforward, but there is some important details that we're going to cover. And then the next day on Thursday, we're going to do a Q&A just right after the group call, following that session, just to get in the weeds and clarify questions and give answers and everything like that. And so, yeah, we'll be sending more information out about that here pretty soon. But just wanted to put that on everyone's radar that we're going to be doing a specialty coaching workshop on cost plus pricing and staying ahead of the money billing. I need to come up with a better name for it than that, but we're going to be doing that here in a couple of weeks. And yeah, would love to have whoever's interested come out for that. I really believe in this kind of system for so many reasons. You're going to close jobs easier, right, with the pitch that you give customers from the very first appointment walkthrough. It's going to allow you to always stay ahead of the money. You're going to be collecting profits actively throughout the entire duration of the job, so that if anything ever happened on the project and you had to, like, for whatever reason, maybe walk away from the project or things weren't working out, you would have already profited from that project up to that point. It keeps and builds trust with customers so that they're happier and working with you because they can see financially where everything is going. It allows you as the business owner, it really forces you to actively see your profitability on the job in real time throughout the entire duration of the project. You're not waiting to the end to see, well, how much should I end up making on that job? You're able to know that up to date throughout the entire duration of the project. It does take a little bit of effort, but I don't think it's any harder. In fact, I think it's probably easier once you make the transition than whatever you're already doing right now with your billing and your collections. So if you're wanting to close more jobs, win more trust with customers, stay ahead of the money, always guarantee profit, be paid profits while you're doing the job, not waiting until, the last kind of 20%, whatever payment, then that's your profits, and you're waiting for 30 days to make your profits, and you're struggling to manage cash flow because you spent all the money that you've been paid to do the project. If any of that interests you, or you're like, hey, I'd love to learn more about that, or hey, I've heard guys talk about cost plus and I'm still trying to learn it, this is going to be an awesome workshop for you. So June 18th, we'll send more information here in the coming weeks.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, if you have any other thoughts, questions, we do have the group chat. Would love to see those coming through there, get answers a little bit quicker. If you have any more questions that you need to talk about with your coach based on what we talked about today, book a laser call. It's what we're here for. But we will see you all same time next week. Thanks so much. Great conversations. We'll talk soon.